Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Crypto Hour. Today, the 10th is the 10th of April, so the first session after Easter. For those of you that are watching from outside the UK, we now had a daylight saving taking effect both in the UK at the end of March and also in Australia last weekend. So the timing in your country may be slightly different, but remember that all year round, I keep this at 9 a.m. UK time. Okay, so whatever time is in your country, just pay extra attention during daylight saving time changes because that might affect what time it is where you watch it from. Okay, so let's go and have a look at the usual um, um, macroeconomic events. And this obviously, this time politically, they're quite important because there's a lot of talk about, obviously the war in Iran, but not just for the war itself, but the effect it's going to have on our economies. So let's go and have a look. So there's been talk, the biggest change that there has been, related to that is inflation. So how are we faring compared to inflation, compared to the expectations that we had for inflation for 2026 before this war began? Something that should have been over in whatever what it was, like 2 days, 3 days. Well, it's been a bit longer than that, and still, there's a fragile truce at the moment that we don't know if we're going to hold or not. So, markets are reacting quite strongly to news event at the moment. So an extra volatile time that we got to pay attention to. But the good thing is about since this truce, the market have come down a little. If you follow the volatility index, it's reduced considerably, so creating the condition for normalish activities to start again. Okay, let's have a look at this week. And I would say we just concentrate on important events, the ones marked in red. So we had the interest rate in New Zealand kept at current level of 2.25%. So there isn't really much in terms of economic announcement this week, but the most important ones are the ones that come um, um, yesterday and today. So yesterday we had inflation on the PCE price index, and today we get CPI. So two measures of inflation. Okay, the PCE price index is the one that is favored by the Fed when they to set interest rates. And also yesterday we had the
Sorry,
final.
Luca, are you going to be sharing screen or not? Sorry.
Thank you for that. Thank
Okay.
you for that.
There is
Thank you for that.
sorry. I just didn't see what you were looking at.
No, thank you, because I thought I was, but I obviously wasn't sure. Can you see my screen now? Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I said it, the biggest announcements really more relevant for the week were yesterday. The inflation figures. This is the PCE price index, is what the Fed uses to set interest rates, and then today we got consumer price inflations, and also employment figures about Canada. But so PC price index is kind of like a elevated month to month 4%, and also it's gone back on a yearly level above 3%, which makes it more unlikely that we're going to get interest rate cuts until that, if that doesn't get back to 3% or below. And also the interest in the GDP is actually way below what was expected. So quarter on quarter has only grown 0.5% instead of the expected 0.7. So that's important to note. Today we had CPI figures, so consumer price inflation, so what we feel in the shops, when we go and buy anything, the pain that we feel when we get our wallet out. And again, it's expected to climb from 0.2 to 0.3%. And again, on a yearly basis, look at the jump. from 2.4% is expected to climb to 3.4%, which is a big jump. And so obviously, one of the remits of the Fed is to control inflation. So when you're thinking about it, so they have to control inflation on one side and then keep the job market working well. So now this inflation is coming in. It's due to not normal market forces, because it's not like consumer activity, people spending, getting excited and spending more than they should. It's not that. It's actually down to producer pressure. So what can a central bank do? The elements that they have to counteract that are quite crude. So do they raise interest rates and then risk of plunging the economy into a recession because people don't all of a sudden have more money to spend than they had before? Well, the prices have gone up because oil is more expensive. So as you know, guys, in Australia, that there are many when you go and fill up your tank, there are many places that literally they don't have any gas available. So it's not as if you got a choice that's saying, go and find the next place. So if there is any, you have to, if you want to use your car, you need to fill up. And the same if there are companies that produce any goods that include the use of oil, they still need to use that oil to produce the goods. It just means that these will be more expensive. So the big question is, what is the Fed going to do? And this is why it's important when we get these things like the Monetary Committee minutes. It just say, you see what it says here? More Federal Reserve officials see possible rate hikes this year. Where at the beginning of the year we were expecting to rates to carry on going down. So that's the uncertainty, and what market doesn't like. Market doesn't like uncertainty, and so we'll see that when we go and have a look at go to a daily chart. When we go and look at prices, you can see that the market hasn't enjoyed the uncertainty. It's actually now reacting positively to kind of like news of some sort of agreement between with Iran that can limit the increase in prices. So that's the reason why the market has jumped. Look at this from Tuesday, where it closed it at 659, open on Wednesday at 675. So quite a big jump. Quite a big jump in just like in a few hours, because the expectations are very different. Okay, so if you click on that, usually you see you see some news as well about the charts that you're looking at. So so far we have been around this level since the end of October. So after when you zoom out, so from April of last year, we had like a really good time in a way, from 484 to almost 700. So that's a 40% increase in just a few months. And now since October, as you can see that you can see the pattern that it's building, where the market was thinking, well, we don't know if there is enough juice to actually enough demand to push the prices higher. So at the moment, the only thing I can say is that here we are actually we have broken the uptrend that was going before since April. What happened next, at the moment, is difficult to predict. The chart normally will tell us that from here, if the downtrend is to continue, they go to an area of a good area of supply and start going back down. But there is nothing obvious in this chart. There's like a juicy what it was called like a juicy place where somebody could take a short possibly. So at the moment, I would say the way that I would describe this activity, I would describe it more directionless at this stage than than going in any particular direction. So it's going sideways. And until we we get a confirmation on either side, either breaking on the upside above 700 or going on the creating closing under 630. At the moment, I would consider this whole area just like a sideways movement, which it's pretty much going in either direction is taking a bit of a gamble. Let's put it that way. Okay. On a very, very long-term perspective, we were discussing before on a previous webinar about long-term investment. But if we look at monthly charts rather than weeklies or rather than dailies, let me just eliminate that. So from a point of view of monthly charts, we are on a very clear uptrend at the moment. Okay, as you can see, even here, price never closed below this point. So it went down slightly, but then it climbed back up. So from a point of view of an uptrend, we're still looking at being in an uptrend all the way above 480. So when we are in those cases, we'll think the places where we're looking to buy is pretty much where we are right now. So places between 670 and 655, would represent a buying opportunity from a very long-term perspective. With the idea of then selling, at the upper Bollinger Band, so to gain a little bit of profit. But I'll say at the time in the short term, it's all, I would say, politically minded and very difficult to to see where we're going next. Turning on to Bitcoin. Let's go to a daily chart to zoom out a little. So very similar situation in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is actually now, from a point of view of daily chart, is in a uptrend, but the uptrend is quite weak. So as you can see, I would say just look at the angle. Okay, so this was the downtrend. Okay, we put it over here. Just do it from here. So we'll just do this. And this is the uptrend. So when you look at this, which one looks more acute angle? Obviously, the down move looked a lot stronger than the up move. So at the moment, although technically we are in an uptrend on the daily chart, and this move down hasn't broken this uptrend, but at the same time, the move is quite weak. So it looks like corrective in nature. What does it mean? Is that if I was to look at this and I didn't even know what this is, I would say, look, at the moment we are in a downtrend, the likelihood of the next important move, it's more on the downside than it is on the upside. Okay. Now, for me, kind of like a confirmation that this move has some legs would come from the, really from the daily point of view, I would want to see this demand zone being broken. Okay, so which is this one here. The supply zone. But it's also another important point to consider is this. I say a very important point that was, can you see there sometimes these points of interest repeat in time? So at the moment it was that in March 2024, there was a resistance of about 74,000. Then price broke through 6 months later in November. There was a retest of that. So this, in this case, was what, support, okay, in April 2025. And then it was broken in February 2026 until we moved and we touched, 60,000. So since then, now it's become resistance again. So we had closed above just briefly in March. Now we want to see for me, I want to see a move that at the very least closes considerably above 74,000, probably about 75 or 76. But just above this, we have this supplied zone that I want to see broken as well. So for me, kind of like when conviction can come back into the market will be, a close, a significant weekly close above 80,000. Okay, at the moment you're still really from February, we've had like 2 months of uncertainty. From a positive point of view, we can talk about that this between 60 and 65 has formed quite a floor, because every time we got to those levels, we actually pushed back quite strongly. So we still 65 to 60 seems to be quite a lot of demand sitting at those levels if you are thinking of of Bitcoin. So this is the ideal time where you can use alternative strategies to actually generate some cash. So just sharing with you, like recently I haven't had a lot of I'll say certainty to invest in the stocks and share market, for example, because of all these political shenanigans that are going on. But Bitcoin, gold, and silver are assets that I am using, on a monthly basis from the point of view of using option strategies connected to it, because when the price goes up and down, it's ideal to basically offer. If I was to tell you, would you like at the moment to buy Bitcoin at 65,000? Would you say yes, you would like that, or wouldn't you not like that? But would you have said that when price was at 66? So that is the point. So if you determine, you're thinking about it, this represents value. The 65,000 mark represent value. So what are your possible actions? Okay, one action is just put a limit order. Okay, we're now at 72,000. You can put a limit order to buy at 65. Okay, so that's one possible thing that you do. Another action could be, you know what, price may get there or may not. So while you're waiting and you already decided that you want to buy, let's say, a Bitcoin at 65,000, well, why not then get some premium while you're waiting? So by selling a put option to buy from somebody at 65,000. Now, would you want to see what that premium will be like? Let's have a look at an option chain, guys. For obviously you can do it directly with Bitcoin, but you can do it with the Bitcoin ETFs. Okay. So obviously we need to find what is this figure, the 65,000 figure in IBIT. So let's go and have a look at IBIT, which is the Grayscale. So not the Grayscale, sorry, the BlackRock ETFs. So that figure, it's pretty much 37. Okay, pretty much between $36.90 to $37 per shares. Okay, so we have a look at the option chain, and we may want to look at the May expiration. So we're looking monthly expiration, which will be third Friday of the month, so 15th of May. So current price pretty much close to $41, and we want to buy at 37. Okay, that will net us at the moment 84 cents per share. Okay, which would mean a 2% on the current price. So while we're waiting, so if the price gets down to 37, we would pay $37 per share, which is a price that we said is brilliant. This is what we want to pay. But for the privilege of waiting until the 15th of May to see if price gets down or not to that point, you get paid basically 2% of the share price. So basically the price that you will be paying is $37 per share minus 84 cents. And with the idea that, well, you know what, if price doesn't get that low and we don't get to buy at $37, if we just have a limit order at this price, then what happens? Nothing happens. The money is still in our account and it's sitting there doing nothing. But in this case, if the price stays above $37, what happens? You collect the premium. And by the 15th of May, the option expires worthless. So you can do it again. You can sell another one. So you got 2% basically of your investment in Bitcoin without doing anything. Okay. So that's a kind of a good, once you find the price that you're willing to buy, when you're a willing buyer at a certain price, this can work extremely well because it monetizes your time. Okay, so you can make money simply sitting there waiting for price to get to you at a price that you'd be happy to pay. Okay, so other things. Let's have a look at from the point of view of institutional investment. Let's have a look at the crypto ETFs. So as you can see, recently it's been a mixed bag. So we had more red days than green days, but then, recently we had, on the 6th of April, we had a good inflow, and yesterday we started to have a good inflow, and then we had a few days of outflows in general. We have a look in particular, the more important ones, the Bitcoin ETFs. So you can see this week, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th of April. So we got positive about 800 million, negative about 300. So it's been like about 500 million inflow into the Bitcoin ETFs. And look at that at the total inflows since the beginning of 2024, $56 billion. So again, just to put it into perspective, guys, no ETF in history has grown that much that quickly. Okay, so and if you look at these, all the different Bitcoin ETFs. So there's quite a few. I don't know what the number is now. I think it's 12, 13. Now the last thing is JP Morgan. I just launched a Bitcoin ETFs. So the worst performing ETF of this list would be in the top 10% ETFs launches of all time. Okay, so just put that into perspective. They are like being huge money makers for all these companies. BlackRock, Fidelity, Grayscale, and all the other ARK Invest, all the ETF launches have been amazing. Obviously, BlackRock has taken the lion's share of this market, but don't get me wrong, everybody else is very happy as well. So just remember that as well in terms of volume. Let's have a quick look as well at the other ones. Ethereum, what's Ethereum doing? Ethereum as well has seen positive inflows this week. Okay, about 120 million. Solana, not actually negative this week. And XRP slightly positive, just a little bit. Nothing, obviously these are just very, very small numbers compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum. We're talking about 2 million for XRP a little bit more, about 17 million for Solana. But when you compare it to Bitcoin ETFs, that is like in the hundreds of millions, then it's puts things into perspective. The moment we're talking about crypto ETFs, we're talking about mainly Bitcoin and Ethereum. The other ones are like also runs right at the moment. We'll see. We'll see over by the end of the year, we should have quite especially if the price of crypto starts climbing back up, we might have quite a few more crypto ETFs on the market if there is enough institutional appetite for crypto investments. Okay, and let's have a look at the crypto count as well. So just give me a second, guys. Just need to. Okay. Okay. So in terms of realized price, as you can see, that's gone down slightly over the past couple of months as price has declined. Now the average is about $54,100. Just I use that pretty much almost like a proxy for like in a band of that. If you take 10% out of the way, normally we should find the bottom of this bear market. So if it was 10% above, then we might have already touched that because we've already touched the 60,000 level. If it was below, that would mean then to kind of low 50s and probably high 40s in terms of the bottom of the price. But whatever happens, what I believe is that the bottom of this cycle will be considerably higher than the previous one at 15,000. So we're still going, if we're going from bottom to bottom, there is quite a distance. If you look at the latest cycles, as you can see, 2029 low was about 3,000. 2018 was about 3,000. 2022 was 15,500. So that's like a multiplier of 5 times if you manage to buy at the bottom. Okay, so that between one bottom and the other, there's like a five multiplier. If we were to close at 60, like if the current low was the bottom for this market, then it would be like 4 times the previous bottom. And if it was to close at around 45, which 45 would bring us back to the launch of the crypto ETFs in January 2024. Okay, so that was the range. That was the range when crypto launch was this week here, actually doing this red candle. Okay, was about 43 to 48 when they launched. So it would, even if it takes us back to the launch of the ETFs, will still be like 3 times the previous bottom. Okay, obviously it is expected to become less volatile, so over time or not not increase as much the price. So I'm looking between 3 and 4 times the previous bottom for the current low. Okay, in terms of kind of biggest new of the past couple of weeks, since we saw each other, because obviously there wasn't any crypto hour last week, I've seen the launch of. Can anybody tell me what was launched? Anybody? Anybody was? Oh, guys, come on! If you're looking at crypto, anybody following the midnight launch of the midnight blockchain? The mainnet of the midnight blockchain was launched, which is again, I've got kind of big expectations big expectation for the Midnight blockchain, because what I am seeing is that we could really be looking at the something that can produce a Wi-Fi moment for crypto. Okay, so that because what the Midnight blockchain does, it allows 8 different ecosystems to use the Midnight blockchain, but without having to worry about the Midnight tokens or Cardano tokens. They can do everything in their own blockchain. So Solana users can interact with the Midnight blockchain using Solana. Ethereum users can use Ethereum. Bitcoin users can use Bitcoin. So um, there is no worry about moving outside of their ecosystem, because there is that certainty that they keep everybody. There are lots of maxis in crypto that think that their chain is, the only chain that will dominate. Well, they don't need to move outside of that belief to interact with Midnight. And from the point of view of a developer, you develop one app, that can work on 8 different ecosystems. So you can see how it can be very attractive for a developer to, to actually build things on Midnight. Then it would be to build something for Ethereum, and then something else from Solana, something else for Cardano, and so on. So there are big advantages of that, and then we'll see. We'll see what happens over the next few months. But um, there is also like big support for Cardano. Let me see if I can find the article. The support is. Mm, let's have a look. I can't find it quite now, but so as at the moment we have a federated network for the stake pools. They are supporting the Midnight chain, and some of the businesses that are involved in this network are, for example, Google Cloud. We have like MoneyGram. So big companies are, I don't remember all of them, but there are, if you go and search, there's quite a few companies they are supporting. They are well-known names. They are supporting the Midnight chain. So why would these big names get involved in something like this if they weren't on board with what they are trying to do? So bear that in mind going forward, and try to start looking into the Midnight, join the Midnight Discord, start looking into the Midnight ecosystem, because it could be a very good place where new project will be introduced and promoted on a kind of on a monthly basis, with a lot of support behind it. So it's not going to be like just small projects, a group of developers putting something on, but there's going to be like some big support from the point of view of Charles Hoskinson and IOG behind it on one side, and the Cardano Foundation as well. So very good, exciting times at the moment to be in crypto. And if you have just been, Jonathan, can I get news? I've joined as a Midnight ambassador as well. Like, I'm a new recruit as a Midnight ambassador. Jonathan is already a few steps ahead of me. He's one of the top echelon, let's say, of Midnight ambassadors. And so, Jonathan, do you want to say the story about the meeting, the Cardano ambassador meetings with Charles Hoskinson? That was funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So you all know I'm into Cardano and I've been hanging around Charles Hoskinson, his events and so trying to get my first conversation with him. Well, on the Midnight Ambassador program, you have to go through recruit and then to an alpha stage, and then you finally get onto invited into a closed call where you get a lecture from Charles Hoskinson, and then at the end they have a Q&A. So I'd sort of worked my way up to this level after months, years. I started I first saw Charles Hoskinson back in 2020, something like that. And I've been, you know, listening and learning all the time. He's a highly intelligent person. Finally got into this call, went to open my mic, got invited up on stage to ask my question, and my computer crashed. So it's like for 5 years I've been waiting for this moment, and my Zoom crashed. And by the time I got back, he'd moved on, and yeah, my opportunity had gone. And then last night I found out there was another call that I was invited onto, and I just missed that one entirely as well. So yeah, I'm not having much luck. But yeah, there's the ambassador programs going strong. You'll race through it, I'm sure, Luca, and then maybe you'll have better luck than I will.
Yeah, no, honestly I just joined, so I haven't done anything yet. I just linked my accounts. I haven't started to any of the tasks. But if any of you are interested to spread the word,
Mm.
then it's still seeing the program is still open. There's still a few spots if you're interested in becoming an ambassador. It just means that kind of promoting the company on social media and doing some specific tasks that they ask of you to move up the ranks. But it's interesting. Like it's interesting to know as well how an ecosystem works. And like I couldn't listen to the whole call, but there was a call last night with about midnight builders, and there was like Charles Hoskinson was on there as well, and some of the like there was the founder of SundaeSwap on Cardano, which is one of the exchanges as well, which is a very clever guy as well. So it's very interesting, even if most of that went completely above my head, because I'm not a programmer or something, but it is extremely interested, and it's just like investing or like crypto, like anything else. The more you listen to something, then the more it makes sense. So I'm thinking for anybody that is interested, just join and just suffer through the initial moments when you're thinking, what the hell are they talking about? Until it actually starts making some sense, you know. And then you feel like, wow, I do know something now. This is how you acquire information. It was the same thing when I started, learning about crypto. The moment I think, wow, this is, this is just another language. And then the more you understand it, the more things make sense, and the more you can then make informed decisions. And this is what we're trying. It's what we're trying to do here in these sessions. We try to make sense of what's going on. Anyway, anybody has any questions? I think I've had enough for talking for today. Talk about the 17th and 18th of March crypto announcement by the SEC. So the SEC, from what I just refreshed my memory, Pierre. So it's from what I remember, it was just like the way that the different agencies are dealing with crypto at the moment. So what we do know so far is that the SEC is going to be a lot less adversarial than we've had before, and they've admitted that in the past they were like too aggressive and too contrary to anything crypto without even giving a proper hearing. Okay, so from what we know so far is that so let's bring it up. There we are. Thank you. So yeah, now it's not for me. That doesn't mean very much because the SEC doesn't have the power on their own to set crypto laws. They just have the power to apply them. Okay, but the legislation, the legislative power is with Congress. So what happened in the past cycle is that almost like the SEC was creating or was making case law by suing crypto projects and crypto companies, even where there was no law to really support their guidance. Okay, well, in this case, they are just saying they're just basically to give a little bit more clarity, but this clarity is not going to come completely until legislation is in place. Okay, so this is just, I'm not being funny, but it is just fluff. Okay, so they're saying they got clear guidance, but until laws get passed, these agencies cannot create new laws. Okay, so there's been the biggest thing is that what is a security and what is not a security. Where in the past the SEC had almost tried to classify everything but Bitcoin as a security. And now they basically admitting with today's interpretation that basically they doesn't classifies everything as a security that will stop basically the decentralized marketing working properly if that was the case. So they just basically it's not saying anything apart from what they should have been done from 2021. But we're still waiting for final law to be passed in Congress before there can be any definite clarity about how they are going to treat with the force of law how they are going to treat um, the issuance and the management of crypto assets. Especially before we get into like real world assets and become a big thing, we need to have 100% clarity. If you're going to have big players get involved in this, then they need to know what the rule book is. At the moment is still a gray area. This helps out a little bit, but not 100%. But it is obviously a move in the right direction. So guys, read these news. But we still wait. So we knew this from the way that the new administrations came into being. We knew they were a lot more crypto friendly with Donald Trump having its own token and so on. It's still the big obstacle is still the Clarity Act being approved and being passed. So so once that is put into law and passed, then we're going to have clear rules like the rules that govern the stocks and share market and the derivatives market. So we need to be a little bit more patient, but things are moving in the right direction. Okay, anybody else? Okay, nobody else. Jonathan, can you give us any update from the other midnight programs, or things that you might have seen or heard within closed circles?
So the only sort of rumor that's public information, or things coming up as public information, is that we're moving from a federated network at the moment, where you've got these big institutions running the network. That is not going to last more than 6 months. So within 6 months, we'll have moved from the sort of nothing much more than a big centralized database, which is kind of what you have at the moment at the launch of many blockchains. That's the way it's sort of done now. Big players involved. They're colluding to make sure the network is robust and stable. And then you slowly decentralize in the same model that Cardano really set. So you start to onboard new operators of computers around the world who are willing to run the software to support the blockchain. And then slowly you decrease the number of federated nodes. These are the large ones that are in places like Google Cloud and WorldPay and all these Vodafone. They're all running these federated node networks at the moment, and that'll slowly then move out into the decentralized land of the Cardano stake pool operators. And yeah, that's supposed to not be taking more than 6 months. So it won't be long before we'll start to be able to earn Knight tokens as rewards from your favorite Cardano stake pool operators. Again, well, not again, but yeah, as a new offering on top of their ADA at the moment. So
obviously, just remind everybody that obviously you are a Cardano stake pool operator. I'll say most of Cardano stake pool operators will then probably become also Midnight SPOs.
Well, I expected so. But actually, there's been quite a downturn in the number of stake pool operators, and this last the non-existence of the altcoin bull market really has turned a lot of people off. So a lot of the small stake pool operators have folded in the last 6 months to a year. So we've actually got fewer than we had previously. I'm not exactly sure what the active number is. I'm thinking around 2,000, just over 2,000, something like that. And whereas previously at our height we had 3,500. So there are fewer, and not all of those have the capacity for taking on a new tech stack with Midnight running Midnight nodes as well. So I don't think there'll be as many, but there will still be a good 1,000 or so I can see running as part of the Midnight network. So your rewards, you'll have a good choice still. Yeah, who that will be is yet to be determined, but there's a good chance that I think we've got something like there's 25 leaders in the ambassador program for Midnight, and I know that there are well, I can think of 2 high-profile YouTube Cardano stake pool operators who are running Midnight nodes or have been participating in the beta network. So they will likely become stake pool operators for Midnight as well. And then in the second tier of cohorts, there's the Bravos, which I'm in, and there are 4 or 5 certainly I know of in there. So there's going to be a good handful of high-profile ones to start with, but then slowly as the program rolls out, there'll just be more and more coming.
And what's it likely to mean for the people that stake Cardano, for example, for a pool like yours? It means that they're gonna start automatically starting to receive some Knight tokens, or do they have to have Midnight tokens also staked for that to happen?
So the likelihood is if you're holding Cardano ADA, then and staking it to a pool that's also operating as Midnight node operator, then you'll just have the option to collect Knight tokens as part of that offering. There's the exact mechanisms haven't been revealed yet, and there are a whole load of additional bits of infrastructure still being built out. In fact, one of the other ones is that we've talked about a little previously on Crypto Hour about Midnight having a dual token model where you have the Knight token, which is the one that we'll all be able to collect from stake pool operators. We'll be able to trade it on big exchanges. It's the one that has launched on Kraken and the large enterprise exchanges. And then we've also got this other mysterious Dust token. And the Dust token is not going to be tradable, but effectively it is the gas token for the network. So anytime you want to buy or sell tokens on the Midnight network, through the privacy layer of the Midnight network, whether that's Solana or Ethereum, Bitcoin, Cardano, then you'll need to have Dust to pay the fees on that network. And there is no way you can get hold of Dust other than by holding Knight tokens at the moment. So if you have Knight tokens already, if you participated in the Glacier drop or the scavenger mine that we talked about as well, and you've collected some Knight tokens already, then you can actually go to the capacity, what's called the, I forgot the name of it, something to do with angels. But as a platform, I'll dig out the link where you can actually register your Knight holdings and the wallet that's got that in, set yourself up with a new Midnight wallet, and you'll be able to collect Dust tokens. And so that's going to be the model going forward, is that anyone who holds Knight tokens will be able to earn Dust tokens over time. The interesting thing about Dust is that it evaporates. So Dust will diminish from your wallet over time, meaning that you have to hold your Knight tokens to earn more Dust. Now, if you're a big operator and you don't have any Dust, you don't have any Knight, but you want to be able to send some transactions through the Midnight privacy layer, say you are Google trying to pay your employees through with Bitcoin, and you don't want everyone to know what everyone else is earning, then you can actually pay your staff through a Midnight, I don't know what the word would be, bridge probably, and have those transactions completely hidden. But you'll need Dust to do that. And so the Pi Lanningham from the SundaySwap team is working on with Midnight Foundation and IOG to build out the Capacity Exchange. And the Capacity Exchange is a place where you can use someone else's Dust tokens to pay your gas fees. And that's looking like a very straightforward interface where you can just connect your wallet to that Capacity Exchange, and then any transactions you make, you will actually hand over a small portion of your own tokens that you're trading. So whether you're paying someone in Bitcoin, you'll be paying your fees in Bitcoin, and you'll never have to own Dust. You just have to connect to the Capacity Exchange. But effectively, Dust is still being used as the underlying asset to furnish the Midnight network. So a really clever model, more complicated than simple transactions on Ethereum, for example, but with the enticement of being able to pay people in that single asset. It's very powerful. So
I mean, privacy. So basically, all of a sudden now it's you get the privacy layer that is available to all these blockchains. Yeah.
Couldn't hear anything then for a second. Is the sound gone?
Yeah. So all of a sudden with this, what you were talking about. So basically, you adding a. Can you hear? Can anybody else hear me? Yeah.
Okay.
So I just type a message. So does that mean? So with this, we are adding a privacy layer basically to all the blockchain. So I don't know if you can hear, but we can hear you okay.
There we go. It's back again.
Oh, you're back. So basically we're saying with this, then it means that we are adding a privacy layer to all blockchains that are participating. So to all the 8 blockchains now they're connected to Midnight. Basically.
I missed the start of that bit as well. Say again. 8 blockchains.
It's on the messages. It's on the message. Check the messages.
So yeah, effectively any token that is on any of those 8 networks, Ethereum, all of the Ethereum tokens, Solana, Bitcoin, all of those will be able to participate on that privacy layer from Midnight. So yeah, like Luca was saying earlier, it's the Wi-Fi moment for crypto. Suddenly, without holding Ethereum on the Ethereum blockchain, you'll be able to send an Ethereum native token to somebody else and have that transaction obfuscated, hidden from anybody that doesn't have the So for example, when you sign up with Kraken, at the moment you're sending tokens on the public blockchain to your own wallet. Everybody can see that. What it'll mean after Midnight is got some adoption, is that you'll be able to send tokens from like you would from Kraken to any wallet, but also from your own wallet to any other wallet and any centralized exchange, but without having to go and buy some ETH first to send an Ethereum native token. You won't have to go and buy some Bitcoin. You'll be able to send native Bitcoin from any of those networks to any of those networks that have an equivalent Bitcoin asset. So it really makes it, once you've done that connection to the capacity exchange, you'll be able to then send your tokens anywhere with full privacy without doing anything more, without having to go and buy extra tokens anywhere. You don't have to go and buy Night, you have to go and buy Dust. Connect to the capacity exchange, and you'll be able to send it to any blockchain. So really powerful, really exciting.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So does it mean that could be, I mean, from the kind of few articles that I've seen, the far and few betweens that we have seen, is that this can mean a lot more than, obviously to every single one of us, but to companies and institutions that are going in, because they don't want their business to be publicly known. So it means that then you give, they don't need to make a bet on a particular ecosystem and buy one thing or another. They can hold any of these 8 tokens and still use the technology for for privacy, which is great. Obviously we are holding a torch for the Cardano token. That it means it doesn't. You don't need to have Cardano to do all this. You can do it from Solana, Ethereum, XRP, or any of the other connected ecosystem. So yeah. So let's see. So I'm looking a lot both at increasing my Cardano Midnight at the moment, because if Midnight does well, Cardano will do well as a result. But also keep an eye on the ecosystem, because I think that some of the projects that get launched in the next few months could potentially be a huge opportunity from the point of view of investing. So we just not just the Midnight, but all the projects that will launch on Midnight could be, just imagine the one that dominates, for example, DeFi into Midnight, it could get funds in from 8 different ecosystems. So then be able to rival like DeFi from Ethereum and Solana, for example. They attract a lot more funds than Cardano does at the moment. So yeah, we've I think covered quite a lot today. So we come now to the end of the hour. So I remain to wish you all a nice weekend. And obviously Jonathan is starting his Cardano Q&A in 10 minutes. So I'll give you a few more seconds just to click on the link that's in the chat box if you want to attend. Highly recommend it. And if you want to understand how the things that go on inside a particular ecosystem, obviously this is a Cardano ecosystem, but similar events then going on all over the internet for different ecosystems. So if you're interested in crypto, then start actually diving in and see how things are done in the blockchain. You might be surprised. Okay, so Jonathan, I'll talk to you later as usual, and for everybody else, then I'll see you all next weekend. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.